The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondell. Tonight, we have an acclaimed actress, producer, and executive that you've seen in Desired Lines, Age of the Living Dead, Crossed, and the new movie that she produced and starred in entitled The Hard Hit. She's also the founder and CEO of Ohlsen Productions. So please welcome to the show, Jamie Ohlsen. Thank you for being with us, Jamie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Trust me, it's an honor to have you on the show. Just somebody with your talent and somebody that you've done so much in the business. It's really going to help our listeners. But I mean, timely interview here, because just yesterday, Variety reported that the SAG-AFTRA group actually agreed to terms with the studios, and I think after 4 months, I mean, that's historic. The whole entertainment community must just be relieved that this happened.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, very timely. It couldn't have been a perfect time to do this, because I was a little bit worried about doing any sort of interviews or anything, because as you know, the strike, certain struck companies like Apple and Amazon. So I couldn't even talk about my film being on those platforms, but now I can. So it's just perfect timing. And I'm very happy that SAG, they agreed on a tentative deal. I'm curious to see the details of that. And I'm sure a lot of people are, but I think that they held out for a long time. And I think that whatever it is, it's going to be a lot better of a deal than the old one, for sure. So I'm excited to see what the details are, and I know it'll help everybody in the union. So very
I mean, as actors and so forth, I know this has been a tough several months for them. A lot of people were out of work for a long time, but I think you look down the road, the people coming behind them, it's got to be I guess kind of a proud moment too, because just the fact that they were able to get this deal done, but suffer in the meantime, but for the people behind, get a better deal when they come into the business. I mean, that's gotta feel good for anybody that was involved with this, to say, hey, I was a big part of this, because I stuck to my guns and was able to get this deal. I mean, it's not just the actors, it's the studios, this whole entertainment business, really.
Right. Well, that's a good point you brought that up, because technically I'm not SAG yet. I've held out from being SAG just because of mentors that I have and things that I've learned. I sort of wanted to build out my resume before I went SAG, because once you go SAG, now the pool of actors are, elite, right? So you want to make sure you have a decent resume before you do that. So they did that for someone like me. So now when I go SAG, which I will here shortly, now I will have the new contract, which is like amazing. Right. So, and a lot of my friends are SAG, and they all have suffered, and so it was believe it or not, it was an emotional moment for me, even though I'm not SAG, just because one, I'm an empath, but two, I just know what people have been going through, and I feel for them, and so it's a moment to celebrate, for sure.
And then having your own production company too, I wanted to ask you about that, because have you always had that entrepreneurial spirit? I mean, what kind of led you to opening up your own production company?
Yeah, I mean, my entrepreneurial spirit goes back to as young as I can remember. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you remember Pogs. Do you remember Pogs back in the day? Yeah. So I'm aging myself, but so back in the day, we used to play Pogs, right? For all you Gen Zs, look it up. And I was like, okay, how can I make money from this, right? So I decided to ask my parents if I can have a Pog tournament in our garage, right? So they said yes, and then I built like a little fake wall out of cardboard, and I made a little door. So I made it seem like legit, where you have to like pay for entry fee, right? So I think I charged like $1 per kid, and I had a boom box, and I had my mom make some lemonade, and we had candy, and so it was like everyone wanted to come to the Pog tournament, and so I ended up making a couple $100, believe it or not.
Wow, that's awesome.
And just things like that. But, but also a big part of me is I like to give. So when I earned that money, I ended up taking everybody out to the skating rink. We went and watched the movie. So, but that gives you a little insight to how my brain is.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And our listeners are independent artists themselves, and that spirit, that independent spirit, is really why we have this show. I just think that even during the strike, independent production companies could still put out products and work and so forth. So I think that a lot of people that are out there, either they're actors or singers or whatever, they think they have to be in a union to get started, and you really don't. And you
Right.
could do some big work like you have done without being in that union. I mean, that's got to be like an inspiring thing, just there in itself.
Yeah, no, it is. The film, The Hard Hit, that you mentioned, which I can talk more about, but
Yeah.
that we shot that non-union. We shot that last year, I believe in June or so last year. And then I just shot another feature film where I produced and acted in as well, which was non-union. We literally just, our last day was 2 days ago. So almost all of my features are non-union, mostly because they're all low budget. And, once you go union, it just adds a whole bunch of money onto it. So so I mean, I was able to continue to work, thank God, through the strike, because I worked on non-union stuff. But you're right, you don't need to be in the union to start. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of, I hate to say it, but they, in a sense, go wrong, is they wait around for something to happen for them, and it's like, you can't wait. You just have to do. A lot of the magic happens when you take action. Just like any sort of learning. So at least that's how I learn, is just to throw myself into something and I'll figure it out along the way.
Well, and what are your thoughts on, you just said something that was perfect, just do it. A lot of people have ideas on paper, ideas that they visualize, but they don't realize it because they think you have to have a crew of 150 people on the set, in order to have a worthwhile production. I go back to when I was a little bit younger. There was a movie, Keanu Reeves and Dan Aykroyd and Tuesday Weld and all kind of people were filming just down the block from my house. So I was on the set almost every day talking to security people, but the budget on that film was $150,000, and he had all these stars in it because there was, they believed in the script, they believed in the project, they believed in everything they were doing, but it was a low budget movie that actually made it to theaters, called Feeling Minnesota. It didn't, necessarily win any awards, but the fact is, it made it that far. So everybody out there listening, if you have an idea and a passion about doing something, just do it. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. Put it out there. Maybe you never know who's going to be wanting to be attached to your project, number one. And number two, you could have anything you ever needed from the city closing streets and whatever you need, just by getting permits and so forth. You can do it with either no money or a little bit of a budget. So, talk about that a little bit, is just having the passion and having the drive, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think people underestimate what tenacity and drive and true belief in their vision and what they're trying to do can do for you. People that know me, that have worked with me, know that I'm very kind, and I'm a very giving person, but I'm also a shark in a way. What I mean by that is, I have my vision is so strong, and what I want is so strong that you're either with me or get out of my way. And that's my attitude. And I mean that. I really do mean that.
That's great.
And I will take as many people along my journey as with me. But if you're trying to stop me, or you're trying to tell me it can't be done, or no one's ever done that before, I just don't listen to any of that, because you can't listen to that. People will project their fears and their experiences onto you, and that's their story, but that doesn't have to be your story, and I'm sure they mean well, they just don't want you to get hurt and all of that fun stuff. But the truth is that you have to go after what you want, because you will regret it, and you will be bitter, and you will look back and say, I should have just tried, and if you don't know what to do, because sometimes it just comes down to, I don't know what to do. you know what I did? I literally Googled stuff. I went onto YouTube. I Googled, what does a producer do? Who are the best producers? How do they do it? I try to find interviews they did, or seminars that I can pay for, whatever it is. But you know, you can find the answers. You just have to be willing to go look for them. No one
Yeah.
taught me how to produce. I literally taught myself on the internet.
Yeah.
And if you look at my IMDb, I've produced a lot of things in the past
Right.
5 years that I've been doing this,
Saw that.
so,
And,
yeah.
that's so impressive. And what you just said makes so much sense. And like I said, just inspires our listeners. And, there's so many times where people are maybe so close to giving up, quitting,
Yeah.
walking away, doing something else because they don't feel they have enough money. And, the way the quality is on even
Right.
an iPhone
Especially
right
with
now,
the 15.
you
Yeah.
can make a
Crazy.
project on an iPhone. You don't have to, like I said, I think a lot of stuff, just from me being in the business for a little bit, I noticed that, what the camera doesn't see doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So, I think a lot of stuff is, unnecessary. If you're doing a project that doesn't need a lot of light, you don't need a lot of lights. If you
Right.
do daylight, there's like the Blair Witch Project. I think they did it on $10,000 budget or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's feasible and possible. So with that being said, what kind of advice can you give to somebody that's just getting started out, and they, like I said, they don't have a lot of resources, or maybe management, or they don't know how to get into the union? I mean, what kind of, in your experience, what kind of the best piece of advice that you can give somebody just getting into this?
Yeah, I tried to, when I first started out in any sort of industry, because I've done a lot of different things. One thing I saw that was lacking was like practical advice. Like, a lot of people give sort of abstract advice, and then you leave and you're like, I don't know what to do with that information. Right. And then you feel more lost. Right. And I remember feeling that so often, where it's like, okay, it seemed like I got information, but I don't know what to do with that. So I'm still stuck. So I'm going to do my best to give sort of any practical advice, where somebody that's listening to this can literally go and do these things now. If it's, you want to be, let's say you want to be a producer, like do what I did. Look up who are the best producers, or who are some producers that what are some movies you love? Look at who produced those movies. Find any information on those people. Look at interviews they've done. Trust me, they've done a lot of interviews. They give a lot. There's a lot of little nuggets you can find just in the interviews alone. Look at Masterclass. There's some stuff there on Masterclass, or Udemy. There's stuff there for producing. Google stuff, or try to find a mentor, somebody who is willing to mentor you. But with the mentor thing, don't be the person that says, hey, I want something from you, give me something. The best way to ask for something is to give something up first. It's just the law of reciprocity. And I'm not saying give up money or anything, whatever, but it could be anything. Could be I don't know, just look up the law of reciprocity. You can't just, I get so many people that come to me and are asking me for things, and they all they do is ask me for things, and it's like, it starts to get a little bit frustrating. So don't be that person, because those people probably won't talk to you anymore. Just use your head, and, so yeah, look up producers. There's also a lot of Facebook groups that you can go to, a lot of people that are just like you, who maybe even have camera equipment or any sort of gear, that are just want to make something with other people that just want to make something. So put out a post and say, hey, I'm an actor, I'm a up and coming director, or whatever you are, I want to produce something. Is there anyone else that wants to get together to do this? I go in these groups all the time, and I see a ton of people getting together to make something. So that's another thing you can do, like right now, just look up different Facebook groups on what you want to do. Or read some books. If you're a reader, I'm more visual, so I like YouTube videos, but you can read books. There's a lot of things you can do to gain information, and then just start to do, like, get with the people, start to film, even though you don't know what you're doing, and then you'll learn along the way, like, okay, that I like this part, I like that part. but let's try to see what happens if we do this, and that's when you start to tweak things, and then you start to learn your groove. You start to work with people you like working with, and then you start to build a little community, and then things, just magic happens when you are doing things. It's just something about the universe. When you start to put one foot in front of the other, somehow the universe figures that out and is like, oh, they're trying to go down this path, so let me put some things along that way. You know what I mean? But if you're just stagnant waiting for a miracle to happen, we'll wait until you die. I hate to say that, but it's true.
It couldn't be truer words spoken. And when you're talking, you kind of made me think too that by getting your hands on so many different things, being independent, you might learn that you have a talent that you didn't know.
Exactly.
By doing, right? I mean, you might have editing talent that you didn't know, or sound
and that's
talent.
What I mean. That's what I mean by there's magic that happens when you just start to take action.
Yeah. So who are your influences? I mean, growing up, did you have an influence in the business that kind of kept you going?
Not in the film industry, other than people actors I loved. I actually never knew what a producer was until I started producing, believe it or not. So I just knew what an actor was, right? And I wanted to be an actor. That's kind of my thing as a kid. But as far as business, one of my aunts, my Auntie Marianne, she got me into lending and real estate. So that's what I did most of my adult life, and I still kind of do till today. But she sort of taught me how to negotiate, how to read contracts, how to stand up front of a crowd of people and talk even though you're shaking, how to lead by example, how to be a leader, how to build teams, how to manage teams, how to just be fearless, and how to understand business and money and all of these things. So she taught me a lot of what I now use as a producer.
Yeah, I mean, that's and it's not even part of the film industry, but you're learning a great skill.
Yes.
That carries over into the business part of what you do, and that's why you're an executive, because of something that you did in real estate or lending.
Yeah.
I mean, that's perfect example. A lot of people and that get into maybe the film business at a later age, sometimes they're more successful because of their past life.
Right.
Getting in front of people and talking or whatever, they make a great director. Did you ever, what drives you, first of all, because being an entrepreneur, something has to internally drive you. And what is that one thing that drives you to become like the leader of a production company or a leader of a film or a TV show? Because a producer is really a leader. So what drives you into that type of role?
I think I always ask myself that question, or I'm asked that question a lot, actually. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a combination of things. I know deep down inside of me, what drives me is basically the ability to take care of others. For example, I had one time I had a PA that came up to me, who I hire pretty much on every one of my sets. And he said to me, Jamie, I was able to pay my rent the last couple of months because of you. And things like that really, really make me happy, Yeah. It's just like making an impact. I guess that's like making an impact on people's lives, whether that's inspiring them or like actually putting money in their account, or allowing them to go on a trip because, you hired them, the past couple of times. So things like that, really, really drive me. Also, I love creating. I'm a builder. I love to see something go from, an idea to, the end product. And I also love working with people, good people, not everybody, but people that I work with, and that, we build a bond. Because making a movie, I like to say it's like going to war, although it is not like going to war. We're not saving lives, we're not risking our lives, but it is very stressful. Every film I've ever made is literally drove me to extreme amounts of stress. And I ask myself, why do I do this? No, I'm just kidding. but it's stressful, and it's just a battle you go through, and you go through with a certain group of people, and then in the end you're all hugging each other, and it's like we made it, and then you see the product, and then you celebrate, and that feeling of going through that with people also drives me.
I mean, the stress you go through during that time frame, whether it's a few months or even a few years, depending on how long the project is. But I'm going to ask you this because I've directed music videos that I've shown on TV, and I cried. It was like a spiritual experience to see what you did from your mind to that screen, and you're watching it, and along with I don't know how many millions of people. So talk about the first time you actually saw your work being shown on screen, and what your thoughts were or what your feeling was.
Yeah. So, this is a very recent feeling, and I still feel it to this day because I'm still going through it. So my film, The Hard Hit, I was with that film from the idea phase to script writing, to pre-production, to casting, hiring crew, finding locations, getting catering. It's going to be 110 degrees in Vegas, so how are we going to make sure people don't die of heat exhaustion? So things like that, and then shooting it in Vegas, and there's my AD pretty much almost quitting on me because she and someone else got into it. And I'm also the one, a lead actor. So I'm in the middle of my fight scene, which I just learned that morning. And she's trying to quit on me. And I literally start to cry. I'm not kidding you. I cry probably once a year, if that, but I cried that day because I was so stressed out. We needed the AD, but it was just, a lot of emotions. And then getting through that, and then also going through distribution. I worked with distribution, then we signed with Vertical for our North American distribution, which is a huge indie company.
Yeah.
And which was like a blessing, right? So that was like, wow. And then it's like, okay, then I get 7 pages of deliverables that I have to deliver. I've never done this. So I have to figure it out on my own, right? Because we don't have the money to pay somebody. So I'm literally, again, back to Google. How do I, what's this file? How do I get this? Going through deliverables. So I did all that, which for my first time, and then finding out that we're getting limited theatrical release on our film, which was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're on Amazon, we're on Apple TV, we're on Google Play, we're on iTunes, we're on all of these platforms, Redbox Digital, all of these things right now, by the way, if you guys want to rent it. And going through that, and then we had a screening in Vegas because that's where we shot it. So being in the screening with about 200 people there, it's sitting in the back, people clapping, right? I almost started crying because I was like, wow, to go through everything, and then to have this moment where it's like people are clapping, right? It's like seems like a little small moment, but it's not, because of everything you went through.
It's huge.
So it's huge. It's huge, and everybody's celebrating. And what's crazy is a lot of these people have no idea what you went through, right? They just think, oh, a movie, but it doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, you did it. You created it. You did it. It's like, it's almost like I'm like hugging myself because it's like a pat on my own back, I don't know. It's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah, people will never understand that feeling unless you've been in it. So talk about the movie. What's it about, and the role that you play in it?
Yeah, so it's an action film through and through. It's basically about an Irish tracker named Alan O'Connor that gets pretty much hired by the CIA and gets sent from Ireland to Las Vegas to track down this bad guy. We'll call him, he's played by Jerry Angelo. His name is Hayes. And, no one knows what he looks like. He's just like a ghost, but his name's going around. And so he's hired as a tracker, but there's a team of black ops that are hired around him. I play one of them. I play Jacqueline. So we're like, the brawn and he's the brains, basically. And so we're trying to find this guy he gets word that we're after him. So he actually, I won't give it away, but he does some bad things to Alan O'Connor's family. And then we end up going rogue and going after this guy. So, it's action packed. It's shot beautifully. And so, yeah, it's, of course there's things I wish I could have done differently. If we had more resources, more money, more time, all of these things. But for what we had to work with the lack of resources and money and all of these things, I'm very proud of it. You know what I mean?
And
so
you should be. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The Heart Hit, it's on streaming platforms right now.
Yes.
And before we go, Jamie, I asked this of my guests, but when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind to everybody when they think of your name?
That's a great question. I would say I want my legacy to be that I built something from the ground up. I put blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, my production company, aka my production company, Ohlsen Productions. And through that, I was able to help and impact thousands and thousands of lives. And in many ways, So yeah, I want to leave here with having done or made an impact in people's lives.
That's an awesome legacy, and that's great to hear. And just much success to you in your future with your production company. And I know you have a lot of places to go still. And like I said, best of luck with your film, The Heart Hit. So everybody listening, make sure you check that out on which streaming platforms.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon Prime right now or Apple TV.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And, thank you for your time being on the show.
Thank
and it's
you.
been very helpful to our listeners, I'm sure. And you're welcome back anytime. And just, again, appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much.